welcome back to My Unprofessional Opinion Podcast. I'm your host, Angela. So today we're in the song series and we're doing Scars by I and They. So it just starts off with saying, waking up to a new sunrise, looking back from the other side. I can see now with open eyes. Darkest water and deepest pain. I wouldn't trade it for anything, because my brokenness brought me to you, and these wounds are a story you'll use. And I think a lot of us can agree. It's like when you're going through stuff, like that's not fun. We don't enjoy doing it. But looking back at certain situations, like I know in my own life, there's been things that have happened where in the moment I get really frustrated. I get really annoyed. I get really irritated. I get really discouraged even. But ultimately, certain things have had to happen to lead me to where I am, to lead me to the people that I know now, to lead me to the things that I'm doing now. And in the moment, obviously it sucks. Like we don't want to be going through these things. But if you look at it from the point of like a learning experience, it can be beneficial because ultimately anything good is worth fighting for. Good things take time. Good things take practice. Good things take trial. Because if it just came easy, it might not be as important to you. So like, for example, I've said this a few times on my podcast before, but when I went to college, the first year was really tough for me, just like going through the transition and everything. But ultimately, the school I was gonna go to originally, it would have been an extra year. So if I had gone there and I kind of took the easy route where I was like, hey, this is like a great school and everything. If I did that, then I would have still been in school a year later, which means I would have been finishing school when COVID started, when everything was a mess. School was like online. People didn't know people didn't know what the future was going to hold, how things were going to be looking. And I wouldn't have met one of my best friends because I met her where I did my internship. And if I went to this other school, I might have not did my internship there. It's like in these moments where it sucks and you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go through this anymore. I just want to be done. I want everything to be going well, whatever it is. But then looking back at this, which was a few years ago, it's like, I can see for myself just how beneficial it was. Like the people that are in my life now, I wouldn't have met them. Things that I've learned about myself, just the strength in my personality and just how that's developed going through it because I was on my own. I wasn't with my family. I didn't know anybody in this city. So I really had to mature in that regard. I had to become more independent. And those things might have not happened as much because if you're with people you're comfortable, why would you change? And then the song just continues to say, so I'm thankful for the scars, because without them, I wouldn't know your heart. And I know they'll always tell of who you are. So forever, I'm thankful for the scars. And I'm not saying oh my goodness, I'm so happy this stuff happened. But I think looking back at it, it's really formed different things in my life, so it's you can look back on it with thankfulness and saying I'm glad that this happened because it ultimately led me here. I'm not saying thank you that I was sad all those nights. I'm not saying thank you that I was discouraged of what am I doing with my life. I'm not saying thank you that I didn't have any friends. It's not that, because I think that would be kind of weird to say thank you for that, but it's just ultimately it's led you to where you are. It's led you to the people that are now in your life. It's led you to what you're doing now. And ultimately for me, it was a really big time for me growing in my faith because I wasn't with my mom who was telling me to come to church every week. It's I could decide if I wanted to sleep or if I wanted to go. And a lot of times I chose sleep. And then I think that kind of played on it because it's I wasn't going to church. I wasn't getting plugged in. I wasn't getting involved. I wasn't learning. I wasn't growing deeper. So it's you pay consequences for your actions. And I could look back and say maybe that's partly why that was happening. I didn't really have a life, but I wasn't really doing anything. So it's you can kind of see why things are happening because it's if you're not putting yourself out there, how can you expect to meet people, But even though that those were some of the most challenging times for myself, it's I think really relying on God because it's God is never going to leave you in the times where you feel the most alone. When you don't have any friends, God is by your side. God's cheering for you. He wants to get to know you. And obviously it's different that it's not a friend where you can have audible conversations all the time back and forth, but it's still the relationship that you need to pour into to get anything back. So I think sometimes it's being at rock bottom and kind of being forced. That's what some people need. And I think that's really what I needed to just kind of drive that in me. Because growing up, I think it was just you're so comfortable. It's just kind of just swing of things. And you're not really forced or challenged in that regard because you always have like kind of the schedule of like, okay, I do this on this day, I do this, I go here, blah, blah, blah. But then when you're challenged, when you're out of your comfort zone, when you're going through trials, that's where you're really going to see, your character, your intentions, what you really ultimately want. And then the song just continues to say, now I'm standing in confidence with the strength of your faithfulness. And I'm not who I was before. No, I don't have to fear anymore. So it's like when you come out on the other side, you can ultimately stand in confidence. You can ultimately stand knowing that God brought you through it. God helped you get through it. God is there with you. And it's like you're a walking testimony to it because, again, it's so easy in the moment to just get discouraged and to get frustrated and to just be so down. But then when you see it on the other side, when you can kind of like look back, you can see things how they happen. You can see it more clearly because you're not as flustered as you were before. You can stand there in confidence knowing that God brought you out of it. God is fighting for you and He wants you. He wants to see you walk down the path that He has designed for you. And even though it's going to be uncomfortable, even though there's going to be trials, even though there's going to be other things that come up and kind of stand in the way, you don't have to be scared because you have a God fighting for you who loves you, who cares for you, who's created this entire universe. And He is on your side fighting for you. Because ultimately that's what happens when you become a Christian. When you have Jesus in your heart, He's guiding you. He wants to help you. He wants to help you make decisions. He wants to guide you the path that He has designed for you. And then the song just continues to say, I can see how you delivered me. In your hands, in your feet, I found my victory. And that's, I think, kind of what we were saying. It's like when you're through whatever the trial is, when whatever's happened, you're like on the other side. And you can see more clearly. You can look back and see how things played out. You can see how decisions you made impacted what ultimately happened. And then when you really think about it, you can see how God brought you through it, how God helped you get through it with His grace and His love. Anyways, that's the end of this episode of My Unprofessional Opinion Podcast. I've been your host, Angela. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for new episodes every Wednesday. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, folks.